of cold takes on the world of professional wrestling. Available everywhere good podcasts are sold. I am the intrepid traveler, Mark Robinson, and with me, the editor over at the Wrestling Observer, here's Brian Rose. Brian, we've made it to December. We have pretty much
Yeah,
made it a full year of this revamped version of the Grap Up, and that year has gone scarily quickly.
yeah, it has, and it's one of the most important years in pro wrestling history, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
Would you
I
say
mean,
safe?
yeah, it's definitely yeah. I like where do you even start in terms of do you go straight to Vince, which
Vince
would be the most
McMahon.
obvious one, but then
That's the
that
biggest news story since like 1984 when he started consolidating power and driving all the territories out of business.
yeah, but I mean, there's been a bunch of stories this year from MJF no showing at Double or Nothing
The
to
fight,
obviously everything with Punk and that or everything that comes with that. I guess the ongoing Triple H, in charge, which I guess bleeds into everything
that
with
whole
Vince as
story
well.
within itself, where Stephanie was, I just remembered somebody brought it up yesterday or something that you know, before all this happened, Stephanie was out.
She
She
was,
was
yep,
taking, she was on sabbatical, and Triple H, I don't think he was out, but I mean he was pretty much out of power.
yep.
Then Vince McMahon resigned, and immediately they both are now two of the biggest people on that in that company. Them and Nick Khan.
Yeah.
So like it's really amazing how fortunes changed over there. It's really something.
Cody Rhodes jumping back to the WWE.
That one
That's
also
that's that's a big one. Yeah, there's been a bunch this year. NXT UK closing for whatever that's worth.
NXT
Um,
Europe.
and well, that's still to be confirmed, shall we say? So
Yeah.
yeah. But that is all for another time. First of all, as always, Brian, I need to know exactly what you've been playing. Well, I know what you've been playing. And I've seen some of your tweets about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
how has your time with Pokemon Scarlet or Violet been so far?
It's been mixed because on the one hand, I very much like the ideas in the game. I like the open world aspect. I love exploring that region and finding a bunch of Pokemon and finding items and just exploring the what the world has to offer. In that aspect, it's great, and there's a lot of little quality of life stuff that I like that they added. But the game is a mess technically. Like really, really, really embarrassing in just some ways. My game crashed like 3 times while I was playing. Yeah, like with Nintendo, I always expect some sort of polish to their games. Like they're not the most graphically impressive games, but I always, whenever I play them, I know it's like I'm going to get like a polished game. Like maybe it's not the best looking game, but in terms of gameplay and presentation and everything, it looks top notch. And that was not the case here for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Let me bring up some of this. I wrote some notes.
I was going to say though, like that's the thing though about the Pokemon games in particular, because while they have never been the most visually, ambitious or impressive, they've at least had, as you mentioned, that level of polish in terms of uh, you're not expecting to run into visual errors
Yeah,
or bugs or whatever the case, but just every other day on my timeline, I was seeing some sort of horror show from Saint glitching out in a way that we haven't seen since Cyberpunk 2077.
I
Is
was
the
gonna say
last.
WWE 2K20.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So
both
close.
two sides of the same coin. Let's be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, what's your list? What you got for me?
Okay. Let's see. Poopy. People move an embarrassing frame rate in the distance. Like I would go into a town, and people would just move very slowly and weirdly with their
In
Pokemon.
fairness, that's not a bug. That is a specific feature
It's not a
design.
bug,
No,
but
so
like
his
it's
his
really weird frame rate.
it's the way to describe that really is like it's an intended design choice because obviously they've had to make compromises across the board to make that game run, but it's
Yeah.
one of those intended design choices that, because you can do things, video games have all sorts of trickery going on behind the
Sure.
scenes with corners cut to make the games run, but the player, you don't
Especially on
see
the
those things
Switch.
happening, especially on Switch, of course. But the idea is you do them behind the scenes so people can't see them. But the things like, the windmill in the distance that you can clearly
I
see
saw
running
that.
at 2 frames to 10 frames,
Yeah.
it's like it's so transparent in a way that just, it's like, all right, I
It's so
understand why you're
visually
doing it.
jarring that you have to look at it and you have to
Yeah.
go, that
But
looks
like
weird.
seeing the people walking, and even like I saw a clip of the students in the classroom, and even in the classroom you can see
Yeah.
students at the back of the class running at less frames than ones at the front. It's like you
Yeah.
just cannot do that.
And whenever you run around in those classrooms, the papers like pop in and out. Like, I guess it's really weird. Also another one I wanted to point out is textures. Like I would be roaming around in the world and I'd be looking at the hills and all of a sudden they start like transforming or moving or it just looked really weird. I didn't know what that was about. Um, just textures aren't that great. Like the world itself is fun to explore, but visually it just looks not great. And yeah, I mean, just very unpolished. Just it's so visually jarring. It's really hard to like concentrate on other stuff when it's like, okay, like this is really struggling. And there were many times where I would like clear a gym. I think there was actually a time when I cleared the final boss, and it was just a very long loading time. I'm like, oh god, am I gonna? Is this gonna crash right after I beat the final boss? And there was plenty of moments like that where the game's just loading and it's a cartridge game, and I'm wondering like, is this game gonna crash? And there's many times where I experienced that. And it's like, okay, my game only crashed like about 3 times, but that's still like very bad.
Yeah.
It's just a poor presentation, just poor technologically. It's just it comes off like it's a struggle to run on that system, which I kind of feel bad for Game Freak because before this they were not like experts in 3D open world exploration kind of games. They were making games for the 3DS, for the DS, and these Pokemon games before that were kind of non-linear in some ways. Not like this, where this is much more open world. So I mean, they've had a very short time of trying to uh, get to this kind of level of gameplay making, and you know, there's also something to be said about the year schedule between each game, which is like it's very tough. It's very tough to do. It's very
It
tough
is,
to
but that's
release a
also
game every year.
that's a self-imposed problem that they have there.
Yeah.
Um and look, you've got
Is it like the
profits.
Pokemon Company or is it Nintendo or
I
that's the question I
It's
have.
probably the Pokemon Company. I mean, I'm sure like Nintendo do have their thoughts and suggestions and that kind of
Yeah.
thing, but like they have other things that come out, like hey, they got Zelda next year. Well, even this year, they had Splatoon, which was incredibly successful. They've
Yeah.
literally had a Pokemon game this
And
year.
this game is successful too. It's like the fastest selling
It's
Pokemon game ever.
the most successful by far. I
Yeah.
guess the big question is like for the next mainline game, or even just the next Pokemon game in general, will there be a once bitten, twice shy blowback?
My
Probably
opinion,
not, but we'll
yeah.
see.
My feeling is they need to do an Assassin's Creed because that also had a game released where it was kind of like the same thing. Um, WWE 2K, with 2K20, they took a year off. They need to take a year off.
Yeah,
They need to really polish these games because
but
RCS, when that was released earlier this year, I mean, it was an ugly game and people pointed that out, but it was not a technical mess like this.
the
it,
thing to
it
keep in
ran
mind,
fine.
is, as far as I'm aware, there were two different teams. I'm sure there was a bit
Yeah.
of crossover here and there, but there are two different teams behind Arceus and Violet and Scarlet. And like the last mainline, Sword and Shield was the end of 2019, I
Yeah,
think it was 2019. So that's a
that was
few
2019.
years. That's a
Yeah,
few years. So I'm not expecting they'll have a mainline game next year, but they've had at least 3 years, and the end result here is just either look, you needed to take another year, or you need to have more people on board that know like how to make a big kind of fully fledged 3D game. And
yeah.
there are aspects of it as well that it is on the Switch, and there's only so much you can do with that. But we've seen other
But
good looking games. Everyone
you know,
keeps
Zelda.
you
That was a
just look
launch
exactly.
title.
That's
And I'm
Breath of the
not,
Wild. That's 5 years
but
ago.
that's also Nintendo's one of Nintendo's top development teams, and this is Game Freak, who is just beginning to get into these type of games.
Yeah,
So
but like
I can
you can
understand it that way.
you can argue, surely if Nintendo Game Freak could pull on Nintendo to say, hey, like, can you give us some of your resources around
Yeah,
3D design and world building and how we can make that work within the confines and the constraints of the Nintendo Switch? And maybe they did, but it didn't work out. We'll say that
it
much.
didn't really show.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because the actual ideas they put in are great. I love the open world aspect. This is exactly what the Pokemon world the games needed, because for so long it was just this really linear kind of, well, go fight, face the 8 gyms and then face the Elite Four. And there is that in this game, but there's also exploring the Titan Pokemon and the Team Star raids. That was all really fun. Um, but it's just just for all of that, and all that was really fun. It's just a technical mess.
Yeah.
It's glaring. It's jarring. You can't look away. Some of the memes in this game are just incredible. For
I've
for
I've
for a,
seen many of
for a
them.
Nintendo game released in the year 2022, I'm kind of stunned that this went through testing, and it ended up being, well, let's release this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It's one of
This is
those
after a day
things.
one patch, by the
It's one
way.
of these things, probably like Cyberpunk, where it's like, look, here's the
Yeah,
hard line. The game is released at that point, regardless, and it's
yeah.
not great, but this is
Did
where
they
we
ever
are.
fix that game? I think there's been a lot of fixes,
Cyberpunk
and
is
now it's
is
playable.
yeah, Cyberpunk is in a much better state. It just took them 2 years to get there, but
Yeah.
that is in a much more playable state now. So maybe I'll play that one day, but I suppose I could on the Steam Deck actually. That'd
Did
probably
they
be
ever
the
put
ideal
it back on
place.
the PlayStation Store? I know
I
they removed it
don't
at one point.
think so, but I couldn't
Wow.
say for certain. So
Wow. I mean, it has
anyway,
to be a mess if you get removed from a store.
it's a pretty yeah. It's not something that happens often with Sony.
No.
But moving swiftly on, we had. I'll start with Survivor Series, as that was just this weekend gone at the end of November. Survivor Series this year, the big thing, the big change between this and prior years is WarGames made its main roster debut within the company of WWE. Over the last couple of years, Triple H had been using WarGames in NXT to mostly, I'd say, like on them varying degrees of success. Some of them have been better than others. Some of them have been a bit self-indulgent more than others. But I think the first was it Undisputed Era and oh god, I can't remember what the other team is made up of. I want to say
I know it's Undisputed Era.
was there like Pete Dunne and I think the Authors of Pain. I want to say might have been the first one.
I've
Or
forgotten.
I think there was like no, I think there was like a three-way war games. I think it was Pete Dunne, Authors of Pain, and then I think Sanity might have been in it as well. But my brain can't rack like stretch that far back. So, but yeah, there's been a bunch of them with the men and the women, and Triple H obviously wanted to get onto the main roster, and now he's in full creative control. So here we are.
Sure
Um,
is.
I don't mind it. I'm not the biggest fan of war games to begin with, but I don't mind that he's gone for this because the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing is such a worn out trope that has like
Yeah.
no stakes to it whatsoever. That whenever fucking McMahon was thinking about, oh, why is Survivor Series not as important as it used to be? It's like, well, it's of your own downfall because there are no stakes to these like 10-man tags anymore. So How did you feel about the inclusion of war games this year?
I thought they were good matches, but I came off thinking like the problem with war games in particular is I did see those matches in the 90s with Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance, and one of those things about the war games matches back then is that they were way more intense. You'd go in there and you'd just see people being thrown around. There'd be blood. It would be this really cool match where just people are beating each other up until somebody either surrenders or submits or gets pinned. And this match, both of these matches, they immediately brought out weapons. They immediately did all their Tower of Doom spots. They immediately did all of just every single thing I've seen in WWE hardcore matches in the last couple of months. Except they're in two cages or two rings in a cage. It's like, okay, well, I've seen this for the last several months. Every time I see a kendo stick, I'm like, do we need to see a kendo stick again? Every time I see a steel chair spot, it's like, okay. And and people very lately, people have been demanding tables in every one of these matches, and it's like, okay, so do a table spot, do a ladder, bring out a ladder, and have a ladder spot.
I
It's
think,
I just
I,
think back then these were way more these they were way better without the weapons.
yeah,
Blood, give or take, I don't. It doesn't really matter that much, but it's like I just remember these being way more intense, and now it just feels like a WWE weapons match in a cage with two rings.
I think the problem that they WWE will have with these war games matches, and they have had in general, is that the WWE presentation of a hardcore match um, is incredibly neutered, especially compared to even I wasn't going to say like a GCW, but even AEW. That their presentation of a hardcore
They
match
have
is way
they
more.
use barbed
Uh,
wire. They have
yeah, it's
they
it's
do different stuff.
it looks like a hardcore match,
Yeah,
but the WWE presentation, for numerous reasons, um, you're never going to get that, and it does come down to, it's like, why bother then if you're only going to present this soft form of a hardcore match. Now, to their audience, maybe they don't care, but certainly, for me, it does come across as just a bit of a, like, let's put it this way. I fully endorse, when using a steel chair, that you are never hitting anyone over the head. I have no
yeah,
issue with the whole hit them in the
agreed.
stomach, then hit them on the back. Never going to object to that at all. But with that said, when you've got fucking, people sit, like, you've got an Uso like standing around, clutching over, waiting for Kevin Steen or Owens to get into position to hit him over the back, it does break that suspension of
Yeah,
disbelief, because you can see they're trying to set into position where, back in the day, you come in and you just smack them over the head. Again, I don't want that anymore. I understand, but it does come down to, is like, just don't have a chair at all then, because you can't execute it in a way that looks impactful and meaningful, and etc etc.
yeah, yeah. My thing is just that they've done so many weapons matches in so many months, and they use the same weapons. It's just like
I mean, we literally had Extreme
all of
Rules
it
last
blends
month.
together. Yeah, there's Extreme Rules last month, and then at SummerSlam there's a big. I think it was with Bailey and maybe that was Crown Jewel. But
We yeah,
we've
Crown Jewel. We had the steel cage, and we
yeah,
had the last
yeah,
woman standing match.
last woman standing match. That's what I'm thinking of. We've just seen these matches where they all use the same weapons, and that maybe one or two creative spots, and it's like I've seen it. I've seen a WWE weapons match every month for the last few months, and they're all blending together. They're all starting to look the same to me because you can't use anything else beyond kendo stick, steel chair, and so on. And it's like I either stop doing these matches every month or find a way for these to be a little more creative because the two ring aspect is cool, but I've seen these weapon spots everywhere. I've seen them in other places. It's nothing new to me. If I, every time you do these weapons matches, I don't need to see like a Tower of Doom spot with 8 people all struggling. It all feels like the same to me. It's way too samey and formulatic, and just carbon copy. And that, and not to say that these were bad matches. I thought they were fine, but uh, they weren't the best matches of the night. They weren't the best War Games matches I've ever seen.
And you speak to that thing there about the two ring setup as well, and it's actually something that goes outside of the two war games matches. But I remember back in the day, or not say back in the day because I didn't see them at the time they were presented, but having gone back to watch some of those old war games events, or even like the World War III pay-per-views that WCW did with the three rings, and you would see matches where the three rings would get utilized. I remember seeing, I can't remember if it was Rey Mysterio or Psychosis, but it was definitely a cruiserweight match where they're basically bouncing between the ropes
Oh
of
yeah, I
different
remember that.
rings.
Rey Mysterio. Yeah,
And it's like, you have a chance, a very rare opportunity to utilize the second ring to make your match stand out in a way that it wouldn't be able to otherwise. And it's just,
yeah.
it's like that other ring just doesn't actually it's like almost
I
you're
don't
like a,
remember any spot in either of those matches where it's like, oh wow, you can have done that with just one ring.
yeah. But and yeah, just even like outside of that, just the other matches, yeah, just I was very disappointed from that, and look, people might say in regards to the hardcore stuff that, oh well, if you have blood over time, you become desensitized to it, and it doesn't have as much meaning to it, and like I would argue, the Wheeler Yuta Moxley match from early this year had way more fucking drama to it than this match, either of these two matches, because it could have possibly have had, because of the storytelling that apparently WWE are world leading at, and just the way that those two put that match together, and stuff like Anarchy in the Arena, the MGF CM Punk dog collar match, like they have and here's to say, by the way, I'm down on AEW at the moment, but you look over the course of the year when it comes to presenting hardcore matches, they fucking blow WWE out of the water at the moment.
Absolutely, and I'm not that high on AEW either right now. They're still better than um, I think what WWE puts out, but they've had better months. Um, in terms of just presentation, AEW just feels a lot better and does a better job of really hyping their matches. And this one, I mean, they've put over the War Games concept strongly because it's a Triple H idea that he revived. And to me, I'm kind of going to borrow what Brian Alvarez said. A lot of these matches feel like stuff where they are doing cool spots and doing all their greatest hits of all these weapons stuff and all that because they want to get clips for when they do the next War Games, where it's like, well, look at all this stuff that's happened on the main roster, because they don't want to, do stuff from NXT that's from like 2 or 3 years ago. So that's what I felt like after watching these two matches.
Yeah, yeah.
And for Survivor Series overall, I thought this was actually like a very mid show until like the last two matches.
I mean, I would argue I thought that this was a mid show after all, but we can get
Oh,
into it. We can jump into it because it's a very short show,
it
only
was a
five
short show.
matches. It felt very much like an NXT takeover style show in terms of the pacing. Um, Team Belair of Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Mia Yim, and Becky Lynch defeat the team of Damage Control, Bailey, Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Nikki Cross, and Rhea Ripley. When Becky Lynch delivered a leg drop off the top of the cage. Was it off the cage or the top rope? I can't even remember.
I think this
Uh,
is the cage.
yeah. And this was the return of Becky Lynch after her was it a separated shoulder she got at
I
SummerSlam?
think she dislocated her shoulder in that match at SummerSlam.
Right, right. So this went just under 40 minutes, 39:40, and this had its moments. The bits between Asuka and Io Sky obviously were really good. Um, Overall, I did think this was a bit sloppy. I found myself tuning out of this. And of the, I know for sure there's been at least one or two of the NXT Women's War Games matches that were tremendous. I
Yeah,
can't remember which one off the
this
top of my
wasn't
head.
this wasn't it.
Yeah, but this
It
was
wasn't
not it.
bad. It wasn't bad, but I mean, it wasn't standout either. It was just they did all. It felt more rehearsed than the men's, more practiced. But there's also some sloppy stuff. There was some stuff looked all right. Some stuff didn't. I mean, they all built up to the big finish where Becky Lynch did the leg drop off the cage, and that was kind of cool. And but at the end, I was wondering like, okay, well, who's Bianca Belair going to face next? Because I assumed like whoever was going to win was actually going to be a heel. They set up the next title program for maybe Royal Rumble or whatever. But now
Um,
after that, I feel like it's going to be like Charlotte Flair returning, and that's probably going to be the direction.
No, I think that I imagine the end result for Mania is you want to do Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey.
I
So
think that's the match. Yeah,
so you want to keep Becky strong. This is a good way for her to return. To be honest, like I think they've done a good job of retconning the issues with like the first Bianca Belair title reign and how that ended. And I
yeah,
think that she's actually, she comes out and she's still getting those good reactions. She's still getting a
yeah.
babyface reaction, which is this is a rare thing in WWE to have a babyface have a lengthy title reign and still be getting pops to the degree that she is. Um,
She's very over, and
yeah,
she is. She's done a tremendous job being one of the top baby faces on Raw. She's great.
exactly. So I think that you can get to a point whether it's I feel like I'm kind of done with this damage control storyline now. So you would imagine I'd say probably like you would do Rhea Ripley either at the Rumble or even come WrestleMania, because Ripley has spent a good portion of this year as just the muscle in Judgment Day because obviously she's been injured, but now
Yeah,
she's back. You can probably lead to that, but I don't think you need to have Belair pin or even be on the losing team. I think that you can just work on getting Becky strong, so that because to be honest, the idea of Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey compared to like 3 years ago when we were at that point is night and day because Ronda Rousey is as ice cold as she's ever been in this company.
yeah.
So yeah,
It's
they're gonna have
I
some
don't
work
know
to
what
make
it
build
is
that
about
up.
this Ronda Rousey run, but she is just not there. Not like to the level she was a few months, last year even. It's just not working. I'm not. It's not her being a babyface or being a heel. It's just any charisma she had isn't there now.
Well, it's that, and also the fact that she hasn't had any good matches since she's been
Yeah,
back.
no good matches at all since
That
returning. It just everything
yeah.
just feels off with her. It's just not translating like it did during that first run where she felt like a star, and now she's coming back and she's not really coming across like a star. Her promos are weird, not good delivery, not good
Well, I
matches.
don't
I'm
really
not
think she's ever had a good promo in her as a wrestler.
been better.
Yeah, been better, of course, goes without saying.
I remember the first when she came back for this run. The first thing she did was like cut a really weird heel promo in front of the fans,
Hmm.
even though she was supposed to be a babyface. And now in the last month, she has turned heel and she's aligned with Shayna Baszler. And I, I don't know. Even with this, I'm not sure if this is. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just not working right now. They need to find something, or else I don't know. I don't want to say like they should cut her, but like I don't know. Eventually, you have to go be like, is this worth it?
I mean, you if you just want to get to the point where, like, depending on what her contract is, you finally put Becky Lynch properly over Ronda Rousey in a singles match, which is what it should have been 3 years ago. Maybe you just kind of wash your hands of it, and be done with it. But at the same time, like if Fox are still beholden on having Ronda on SmackDown as part of, like, depending on, like, when is the TV agree deal up with Fox? Because
I think it's up next year.
yeah, so I'm sure they want to keep Ronda around for that. So we'll see. Um, AJ Styles with the OC of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson defeated Finn Balor with Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio at ringside. This was a 3-star special, a gentleman's three. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I feel like at this point, um, AJ Styles, I feel like he can't, either he can't or he doesn't want to go beyond a 3-star special. And you know what? Look, this is AJ Styles. This is a man who's had a 20-year career at this point. He has done everything. He's had some of the greatest matches of all time across numerous promotions. I can fully respect the fact that he's, what, 44, 45 now.
yeah,
He doesn't want to go as hard as he once did. That is completely understandable. But I also don't have to sit there for 18 minutes and watch a 3-star match.
yeah. I'm noticing that the audio here is not. I don't know if I'm not being recorded or what, but seeing your audio, but I'm not seeing my audio.
I can see your audio fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, you're good. No worries.
Okay, so for AJ Styles and Finn Balor, they had what was a pretty good match. Everything was well worked. They wrestled just fine. There's two problems with this match. One, the crowd was absolutely dead, and that was the story of the show. This crowd did not care about much except for Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. And two, I expected way more from these two, and they just kind of came across like they were just going through the motions and having a match that wasn't bad, wasn't great, but was kind of good. It kind of reminded me of like a Randy Orton special, where it was like, okay, Randy Orton is a good wrestler. He has good matches. Do I think he's ever had any great matches? They're very few and far between, but he's a very solid mechanical wrestler who I've never seen a bad Randy Orton match, like a really bad one, where he just looks awful.
Yeah.
But he has very solid matches, and this was a solid match where it's like, but okay, it's fine. But I kind of expected more than a okay Raw match here at Survivor Series.
And also
That was
considering,
kind of weird.
yeah, and considering as well that this is one step removed from a blood feud. You'd expect
Yeah,
that with everything that's
they've been feuding
happened.
for months.
Yeah, they have. And here's a couple of things, right? Because there's a number of issues to begin with. First of all, the Judgment Day have been incredibly patchy into, like, their
Yeah,
formation was a mess to begin with, and that stifled from them from the
they
start.
did turn things around though once Triple H took power.
Yeah, to some degree, and the whole like Extreme Rules match was pretty effective in making them become across as like like vicious hills. But the push with them has been so stop start. Like I'd be curious to see what their win loss ratio is since their formation,
Probably not that
because
good.
I would say it's about 50-50, which
Yeah,
is not really gonna, if you're trying to get momentum, it's just not gonna
no.
happen. And, like, even again, in this match, like, fucking Finn Balor comes off of beating Edge last month in an IQ match, and he's really vicious now and whatever. And
Yeah,
then he comes in here and he fucking loses to AJ Styles, and it's like, okay, well, what the fuck are we doing? So that's kind of
I
that's
I would think that if the next feud is like him and Edge, like him and Rhea Ripley versus Edge and Beth Phoenix, you would think that Finn Balor would get like the win here, but he
well,
didn't.
I think part of the problem, and this is kind of a problem with any sort of upper mid card feud that they have, is that because you've got a champ who is predominantly kind of residing in terms of a heavyweight champ, predominantly residing on SmackDown, there's a lot of like, okay, well, if someone wins one of these upper mid card feuds, what do they do next? Usually, in theory, you want to have them move on to a title program of some
Yeah,
description. But that can't really happen because there isn't really a champ about, because he's doing his whole fucking Sammy Uso thing and whatnot. So it's like, what do you do with the OC and the Judgment Day? Is like, well, you just keep spinning those wheels, and at some point Edge will come
Yeah.
back, and I presume we get uh, Edge and Rhea Ripley against Finn and Rhea. That presumably is what's going to happen. But it's like we've been spinning the wheels with some combination of either Edge or AJ Styles. Like, the fucking creation of the Judgment Day was based around AJ Styles and Edge at WrestleMania. It's like fucking 7, 8 months later now. And all we've gotten additionally out of this now is Dominic, who's gone heel, and the return of the OC. And while I did appreciate a lot of the backstory that they gave around the Bullet Club and different championships that they've won in different promotions, and like there's those little things there that you certainly wouldn't get if Vince was in charge. But
Mhm.
like they're just kind of bits of dressing on the side. It doesn't kind of fix the core issue we're dealing here
Yeah.
with, which is a fucking feud that has been going on for an interminably long time now and
Mhm.
only producing fucking 3-star matches.
Yep.
Sorry, there was a little rant I wasn't expecting to go on there.
No, but I agree. It's the Judgment Day. There's been some really good stuff, and then there's some stuff that's like, whoa, why are we doing this? This was a match where it's like it didn't feel urgent in terms of like where are we going to go next. It's just that these two had a match. It was good, not great. Then AJ won, so now it's like, well, where do we go from here? Who knows? We have six. We have 2 months until Royal Rumble, so who
Um,
knows?
Next up, speaking of Ronda Rousey, she defeated Shotzi in 7 minutes 15 seconds. I have nothing to say about this match.
It wasn't good.
Yeah,
It was there's just missed spots everywhere. Neither wrestler looked good. There's a spot where Shotzi did a DDT off the apron, and that looked really bad.
that was that. I saw a gif of that, and because
Yeah,
I didn't even remember it in the match, but I saw the gif. I was like, oh boy, this is not good.
yeah. It just wasn't good. Not Shotzi has she botches a lot of stuff. I really like her character. She comes off as being really cool, but not the smoothest wrestler I've ever seen. And of course, I said stuff about Ronda earlier. Just I don't know. She had something the first run. Now this run, it's just kind of like doing stuff. And she did stuff with Shotzi, and a couple of stuff looked all right. Most of it didn't. And then Ronda won after Shotzi dedicated the match to her father who passed away. Which
Yeah, you
why
never
do
want
you
to do
do
that.
that? I also saw that in NXT where Malik Blade dedicated a match to his father, who also died, and he lost in like a minute. Like, why do you have these baby faces like look like such like morons, like losers? Losers is a better word. Why do they? Why do you have to book them like losers? That's so weird.
Didn't like Bulldog dedicate a match in like was it the European title match or
Yeah, but
something?
that was because Sean didn't want to do a job.
Ah, right, yes.
Different
Look,
reasons.
either
He was
way,
he was supposed to win that match, but then
yes,
Sean
yes.
like did stuff, and then he lost in front of his sister, who was
Sean was
like,
Sean.
yeah,
Sean was Sean.
that was a Sean thing.
Yeah.
I think he lost the match, and his sister, who was like near death or something, he
Yeah,
dedicated that
yeah, yeah.
his
I remember now.
his very sick sister, and like,
Yes.
yeah, that wasn't because WWE doesn't know how to book baby faces.
I mean,
They knew
look,
how
the
to
end
back
result
then.
still wasn't great, but yes,
No, it was because
I
Sean
concede your point.
pulled a move to win a title that he didn't need
Yeah.
in Europe.
There you go.
I think it was something like, "Well, you're gonna lose here, but you'll get your win back."
Yeah.
Like nobody
Mm-hmm.
got their win back with
No,
Shawn Michaels
no.
back then.
Speaking of titles that don't mean much, Austin Theory defeated Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley to once again become the United States champion.
Well, look, I do think that they've rehabbed this title a little bit in the last few months, and this was actually like the best match of the night.
It was like this was all action.
Yeah,
I won't dispute the fact that these three went out there, worked hard, which
yeah.
shouldn't come as a surprise. Um, the jury is still out on Austin Theory in
Yeah.
terms of like him being the next star. I He has a look,
He's
you
grown a
know.
beard and he's been more serious in his promos, which is definitely a Triple H heel push.
Look, he obviously has a physical frame that is not dissimilar to one Juan Cena, but I don't think look, John Cena had an impressive frame in 2002, but they were ready to cut him because he didn't have a personality,
Yeah.
and
He had no gimmick, and what saved him was like a Halloween Halloween backstage party in front of Stephanie McMahon. That's what saved him. He did a rap.
I'm not saying that I need to see Austin Theory rapping anytime
Yeah.
soon, but I don't know. He's very much just generic Hill that has a good frame.
He is. It's now like they ditched the selfie, they ditched all that stuff, and now he is heel who says he's the future, and he's
Yeah,
the now Austin Theory. That's what they're going with.
and it's
He is the
like,
now.
it's not exactly like I've been enamored with Seth Rollins' heel character work over the last
It's
2 years or
not good,
so, but
but
at least,
he's one of the best wrestlers on that roster.
well, it's not just that, but at least it is a character of sorts. It's a really fucking annoying character, which is kind of
It
by
is.
design.
I don't like the laugh. I don't like that stuff.
Um, but it's also like, just because people are singing your theme song, that doesn't make you over. It just means you have a very easy. Like, I have seen Iron Maiden songs where they're doing whoa whoa bits, but they're not good songs. They're just there's a whoa whoa bit, and in the crowd, that's what you do. But with that bitching aside, this was the best match on the show.
Yeah.
We kind of seem to be doing hot potato with this title with these three at the moment. Um, Maybe Theory keeps it. Hey, by the way, like, what happened to Johnny Gargano? Remember when he returned like a month ago or so?
Yeah. He's with Dexter Loomis, and they're feuding with The Miz over a
Yeah.
very weird and incoherent storyline about Dexter wanting money because Miz hired him to stalk him, and then the stalking turned to a shoot somewhere because Miz stopped paying him.
You know
That
more about that
concluded
feud than
on
I
a
do.
Monday, so that's good.
I did not need to know any of that, so thank you, Brian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not no, it's not a good storyline. It's really it really it made sure Johnny Gargano's a mid card guy, which
great.
isn't a
Good
good
stuff.
thing.
No. All right, main event, men's war games. The Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, Solo Sikoa, and the Usos defeated the Brawling Brutes of Sheamus, Ridge Holland, Butch, Drew McIntyre, and Kevin Owens. Um, this was, in terms of the work, was smoother and
Yeah,
more kind of put together
this was a
than.
better War Games match.
But I also found large elements of this to be really fucking boring.
Yeah,
Just a lot of.
which is really weird for a War Games match.
Well, there's two
With
reasons
these
why.
War Games matches, you expect to have nonstop action.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? One, there's that. There was a lack of action at points. And two, and part of the reason why there was a lack of action at points is because the baby faces had the advantage. How
Yeah,
are we in 2022, and fucking Triple H has done a number of these War Games matches where he's gone for that. Where in whose fucking mind thought it was a good idea? It's like, we really should have the baby faces have the advantage. That is what is making these matches click. It's
I think
not.
the
It
idea was they
sucks all
wanted
the
to
fucking
put
life and energy out of them.
the idea probably was like the bloodline is so over and so dominant. The babyfaces having the advantage would at least put them in some sort of bad position, but then
That's
it
not
didn't
good.
matter.
That's
It's
not
not
good.
good. It's not good. The bloodline is the most over thing in WWE right now, and they're both babyface and heel, and uh, it's like eating up everything else in this company. It's all of it's really good, and actually the best stuff of the night was Sami Zayn. The interactions with Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. I think that was some of the best stuff on the show. And the finish of this match was really well done. But once that ended, it's like, okay, they've done a good job in the last several months, kind of building up Sheamus and kind of building up Kevin Owens as potential challengers. But then Jey Uso pins Kevin Owens.
Yeah, I look
It's like,
the finish of this, everything about this match in terms of the finish and the advantage was just fucking baffling. They tried to
the
retcon it.
stuff with Sami Zayn was good.
It was absolutely, and I do think that if we get what the suspected match is, which is Owens and uh, Sami Zayn against the Usos at Mania,
Yeah,
I think that because I would have to imagine that these wrestlers have a little bit more kind of input in terms of these storylines in a way that they may have not had before.
yeah.
And so, look, this is not the first rodeo for Owens and Sami Zayn in terms of telling a
No,
long term story where these two are intertwined with each other. So I think that you can absolutely do something that gets to Mania and that you could have some very, like, for all of the everyone's talking about like WWE genuinely does the best storytelling, which they don't. I think here's an
no.
opportunity where they actually could do that because you've got people involved with these storylines who are actually good at doing this sort of thing. So I look forward to hopefully them playing that story out and executing it. And because the thing is as well, like one thing about this whole bloodline storyline, because there are positives and there are negatives. They are by far the most over thing in the company at the expense of everyone else. But they have, after what 12 odd years now, they have finally managed to make Jay and Jimmy Uso feel like distinguished individual
Yeah,
personalities. That in itself is an accomplishment. It's taken them fucking forever to get there. It helps they have slightly different haircuts as well. But the simple
it
dynamic of
also
having
helped that Jimmy was out for a year and Jay was the pushed guy.
there is a little bit of
That
that,
helped a lot.
but definitely the dynamics with Sammy involved has helped to kind of clearly distinguish those two people.
Yeah,
So like that is great. And I think that now we've got some real like interesting stuff they can do as we eventually get to, that match potentially at Mania. So that aspect of it I look forward to. I still think the Mania match with Roman should be Cody. We'll see what happens. I definitely think you could do a singles match with Sheamus and Roman. They've had good matches in the past.
yeah.
This would be the first time they would do it where the dynamics have shifted in terms of the heel face.
Hmm.
Um, and then fuck knows what Drew does, the poor bastard. I think they should do Drew and Gunther at Mania. That would be my suggestion. Just have two like big
Yeah,
lads
that would be a good match.
beat the shit out of each other. But yeah, this match was just there. Had a little bit decent storytelling, but was a bit long and pondering. And yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else? Trying to see if there's anything else from WWE. The only other thing I've got the tag match on the 11th between the Usos and the New Day, which was interesting because of the storyline in it that the New Day were coming to try and stop the Usos from beating their longest tag reign.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Decent match. Like hey, it's a New Day and the Usos. What do you expect? You're going to get a good match out of them. But that's pretty much it for me with the Fed
Yeah.
in
That
November.
was a good match. But
Mm.
I've seen a lot of good matches between the Usos and the New Day since like 2015.
All
That
right.
was a good one though.
It was a good one. It was a good one. All right. Full Gear, AEW. Once again, this pay per view was about 12 hours long. For the
Yeah.
love of God, I don't need these pay per views to be 12
Is
hours long.
the thing is that this was not a bad pay per view by any means. This was a pretty good show. It would have been a much better show if it wasn't 5 hours. Just a lot of stuff. Just by the end, I was like, okay, I'm glad this is done. That kind of mentality. But there's some good stuff on there. Oh,
I'm not going to do the full 0 hour, but I will make mention of Eddie Kingston and Jun
that was a good match.
Akiyama. Now, here's right. So here's one of the things that I want to, complain about to some degree. Right, the fact that we got Eddie Kingston and Jun Akiyama, that's great, that's awesome. But
Yeah,
we know that like one of the reasons that Eddie Kingston became a wrestler is because of Jun Akiyama. One of
yeah,
his dream match is Jun Akiyama. It's great that we got this, but like there's no fucking reason that this couldn't have been either a match on the card itself. Maybe it was a last minute thing and they just couldn't fit it in. Who knows? And like it's not exactly like Jun Akiyama comes to fucking America every 6 months. Like this is a pretty rare opportunity, so you just have to get it in where you can. But it's
That was
like,
probably it.
to some degree, I'd fucking hold it off then and find another chance, a time to do it. Like it just, we had fucking John Moxley and Satoshi Kojima on the main card. Like, obviously, this was during the pandemic, but like that got thrown onto the pay per view as just a kind of a throwaway match. But still, it was on the main card. I look at this card, and there are some slight tweaks that I would have made, but it's just crazy that this got put to 0 hour, and like, God bless Jeff Jarrett, but he's on the main card.
Yeah, I don't even remember that match. It wasn't that memorable. No, but this match with Akiyama and Kingston definitely was, because mostly because of the pre-match promo, and the promo after, which was like one of the best promos to sell a pay per view in some time. Eddie Kingston's just a great personality, great promo. Um, this match was great, just hard hitting stuff back and forth. Yeah, I really liked this match a lot, and obviously it was the best thing on the pre-show. Which, by the
Yeah.
way, these pre-shows are so much better than WWE's.
Oh well, that's because they
WWE's are
actually
the
have.
worst I've ever seen.
That's because
They
they
are just
actually
up
have
there
matches on
talking
the
for an
pre-show.
hour, and they are not saying anything. They are showing video packages. The back and forth is not good. Nothing about those shows are good. So at least AEW has some matches that are fine, and then you had the main event, which was really good.
Yeah, like it was a fairly decent 0 hour. Like the best friends defeat the factory, that was fine. Ricky Starks defeat Brian Cage. The fact as well, like these 0 hour cards, like there are actual stakes to them as well, which is
Yeah,
appreciated.
they
So
they they, they want you to tune in,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
a novel concept apparently.
So in the opening of the show, Jungle Boy Jack Perry defeated Luchasaurus in a steel cage match in 18 minutes 40 seconds. I'll say this: this was the better of the two steel cage matches that I've seen in the past month or two.
Oh, wasn't that on like Karrion Cross and Drew McIntyre?
Yeah. Do you remember Karrion Cross? By the way, you remember when he was around for a
Yeah,
minute?
remember
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
He sure is a guy that exists.
This was treated like a blood feud.
Yeah.
Jungle Boy got blood, he got color. Luchasaurus came across as the big scary monster as he's meant to. Like everything about this that I complained about in terms of the war games and getting the dynamics wrong. This is what good storytelling and wrestling looks like. This is not that difficult, folks. This was a great match. I there's very little to complain about with this, other than the fact that for reasons out of their control, this storyline is going to go on until next fucking year.
Yeah. The one thing I kind of want to complain about, even though I thought this was a really good match, um, and really well done with a cool finish, um, I would like to tell any wrestling promoter out there who wants to book a steel cage match, you do not, please book a steel cage match where nobody interferes, where nobody has, puts in a weapon, where they open the steel cage door. For the last 2 months, I've seen two cage matches where they stress to you, the viewer, well, nobody can interfere. This cage match is designed so nobody can enter, nobody can do this or that or whatever. And in both of those steel cage matches, people interfered. They were thrown out. They they objectively caused the match to go another way. And all the while, announcers are stressing, well, they're not supposed to do that. And it's like, then why do you book it? Why in every one of these cage matches recently, it's like someone has to interfere, somebody has to be thrown out. It's like steel cage matches are meant to be the end of a feud between two people and nobody else. And it's like every single time, whether it's here or in WWE or elsewhere, it's like somebody's out there and it's really annoying. Or they do a spot where they go outside the cage and it's like that's completely destroying the point of the steel cage. So I just dare any promoter, whether it's an indie promoter or whatever, just book a match between two people in a steel cage and do it inside the steel cage. Do it so no manager or whatever interferes. Just do a steel cage match between two people. It's a novel concept, but it's I think it would work.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I can't argue with that.
Now, with that
Uh,
said, the match was good, but I just
yes,
got so annoyed after seeing that in the same match last month with
yeah, yeah. No, I
Drew
totally get it.
McIntyre, which was much worse, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
I
No,
didn't
it's
like it.
it's, it's a totally fair point. Death Triangle, Pac, Penta, and Ray Phoenix defeated the returning elites of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. First of all, how did you feel about the way they presented the return of the elites, which was basically Pac going, "Look, I know who the fuck our opponents are at
Yeah.
Full Gear. Just put them on the screen already. All right, well, there you go."
Well, that was fine. I, you know, the elite always want to be like do something different. And for them, it was the disappearing act that they put out. The thing with it though is like if I didn't know about the CM Punk stuff and I'm here watching the elite disappearing and stuff, it's like, okay, well, why did you disappear for a month or 2 months? Where did you go? What happened? AEW's never really explained that. It's just that you're supposed to assume they think that you are supposed to assume or whatever that what happened. We can't tell you what happened, but it happened. They were gone for about a month or two, and now they're back. And that's kind of how they presented it, especially at the end when Pac says, "Well, we all know it's going to be the lead," and then they show that sure enough it is the lead. And then they came out to "Wayward Son" or whatever the song is called by
Carry on, my
Kansas.
wayward son. Yep,
Yes, "Carry On My Wayward Son" by Kansas.
classic rock song.
It is a classic rocks. I remember it from Guitar Hero, one of the Guitar Hero games.
Also, we use a variation of it, but the theme song that is used for the Link to the Cast Game of the Year, just putting it out.
Oh,
Plug for a couple of weeks' time.
okay.
But yeah, a tremendous intro. Like it goes without saying that whenever you can use licensed music, it does add a
Yeah,
little
it
extra,
does
just
add.
je ne sais quoi that the generic fucking rock songs of WWE just are sorely lacking, shall we say.
Yeah, a lot. They I don't know who's doing their music now, but all that stuff sounds so generic. Somebody brought it up at the Royal Rumble. I can't even tell who comes out to what now because
Yeah.
all of it sounds the same. They've changed so many people's music that it all kind of like blends in together. It all kind of sounds the same. It's really weird. And in AEW,
There's
it's not that bad because I like Mike Ruckus and the stuff he does. So it's not that so much that in AEW there's a lot of memorable themes, but WWE actually really bad right now.
there's a reason that Edge will get the biggest pop if he returns at the Rumble. It's
Yeah, it
partly
has
because
recognizable music.
very recognizable music, yes. But yeah, the ending of this match was Ray Phoenix, who was up in the one winged angel position, finally turned to the dark side and used the hammer that Pac was just like, "Will you just fucking use this hammer already?" And he did. He clonked old Kenny on the head to get the pinfall, which I thought, again, hey, that's a good bit of storytelling here. All right. And you know what? Even up until this point, because we're what, 3 or 4 matches into their series now,
Now, like
the
match 3.
yeah, like Dynamite that happened last night. Look, he's still conflicted about it. He didn't actively want to use the hammer. He was just in a position where it was either that or he was going to get hit with the one winged angel. So desperation reared its ugly head, where Pac just seemingly just wants to fucking hit people with hammers. And that's a tremendous bit of storytelling.
Yeah, I
Um,
just saw the Dynamite rating. By the way, it was not good.
no, I did see that as well. They
Point two
they're
six.
they're on a bit of a
Wow.
downswing at the moment.
That's not good.
Yeah,
So he just texted that to me. I'm like, oh,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
I did see myself. It's I don't know. Like, why do you think that is? Like, do you think that like because I do feel like AEW is a bit of a cold product at the moment.
It is. And I don't know what it is, but something happened during that build to Forbidden Door where it's like, okay, this is okay, but I kind of expected more. And then ever since then, these used to be better built shows, but now it's kind of like they're thinking a little bit too much about the build, which it's like, yeah, but you know, the way you were doing it last year was so much better. It was so much more straightforward. And now it's not that straightforward. They think about it a little bit too much. I remember that the build to the CM Punk John Moxley match at All Out, that was a little bit thinking about it too much. And MGF and Moxley, even that was kind of like, okay, well, where's this going? I'm not really sure where this is going, and I'm not sure if I'm into it or not.
I
And
and
that also was kind of into it. And you know, another thing is that I think the hot thing about them at the time was like, especially earlier in this year before Vince McMahon resigned, it was like, well, who are they going to bring in this week? Who's the new hot act that they're going to bring in this week? And you haven't really seen that in recent months. There's been one or two signings that are kind of big, but I think once they sign like the Brian Danielsons and the CM Punks and the Adam Coles of the world, it's like, well, now who can you bring in? And there
I
isn't that buzz anymore.
I don't even think it's I mean, there is obviously there is an element of that. Not to disagree with you on that, but for me personally, one of the things that had me compelled to watch Dynamite every week is on any given week you was getting at least like a 4-star match,
Yeah,
or just a match that even if it wasn't 4 stars, the crowd was absolutely rabid for, and it felt like it was must see. And maybe just it's a case of we feel a little bit spoiled at this point, but the Brian Danielson Dax Harwood match was good. It was a very very good match,
yeah,
but it didn't feel like it was a must see sort of match. And
yeah,
I very much enjoyed the this Elite and Death Triangle match more so probably than the others. Now, other than like the one where they returned to Full Gear, which was probably my favorite match of the month because it was just a reminder of how good those
yeah,
three are, and everything was just so smooth and just like people talk about like this kind of video game car crash style, and it's like yes,
yeah.
but it's
But
like the
it's top
best.
tier video game crash. That's the
It's
good
the
stuff.
best
That's
version
everything.
of that you could
Yeah,
ask for. And I like this match they had this week because it felt more like a bit of a brawl. There was a lot more kind of like on the ramp and around ringside. That was good fun. But it still didn't feel like it was an absolutely essential must see match because we're now
yeah,
3-4 matches into that series. So
yeah. You knew
just
the elite was going to win, and you know this is at least going to go to a seventh match. So until then, we're just kind of like watching, or just kind of going along. Like, yeah, this is great stuff, but no, this isn't like must see.
so yeah, I'm not surprised that the ratings are where they are at the moment, and I don't
Yeah,
know what the answer
0.26
is.
though.
Yeah.
That's a lot lower than they were doing recently. And they were very strong with 18 to 49 for a long time, but now lately,
I mean, look,
like, it's not even close.
Jericho weren't on the show this week. Just saying.
Yeah, Jericho. He was not on the show this week. I am starting to wonder if Jericho is like the key to these shows
I don't
being very high.
know. Jade Cargill defeated Nyla Rose for the AEW TBS Championship
This
in
was
a
not good for you at all.
another match where it's like, look, Jade Cargill looks the fucking part, and
Yeah.
hey, Dynamite last night, she sure made you know that
She
she looks the fucking
she
part.
stood out.
But I'm sorry, I'm just past the point now of giving the excuses of like, well, like, hey, she needs time and blah blah blah. Look, she's been this champ for like what, at least a year, if not more. I can't remember when they
Here.
introduced it,
Yeah.
and I'm not interested in watching her have bad matches every 3 or 4 weeks.
It's not,
I'm just not.
and the bad matches are one aspect of it, but the other aspect is she is undefeated. She's been undefeated for a year. And the question is, who do you have next? And it's not that clear because she's gone through everybody. Like they're not going to put her with Britt Baker or Jamie Hayter or the other women who are in the world title feud. The question is, who's next? And it's like she's going to feud with Bow Wow.
Yeah.
How's that going to work?
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Like there's little things like that. Where he's like, this feels it's not the same, but it feels like WCW '99, where it's like, what celebrity can we bring in? And it's like, well, I don't even know who the fuck this person is, which was, another issue WCW had
Well, I
been.
do know who Bow Wow is,
I
but
don't know who the fuck Bow Wow is. I'm a white guy in my mid 30s. Why the fuck would I know who Bow Wow is?
well, I just remember when he was like a star when he was like a kid, but now he's like 30, and like he's he has a name.
I've never heard of him. Never heard of him.
I have not listened to any of his recent music.
But it's also a case of like, how is this a feud with Jade Cargill? Like, how does this work? Unless somehow at the end of this, fucking Sasha Banks comes out as like Bow Wow's representative.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Sasha Banks.
No, no one does. I'm sure
I,
currently with the way things are, Tony Khan would love to have her.
probably.
You know,
I mean, I would go out and try to sign her if
they that would get those ratings back over
free agent.
1 million.
Yeah, they need something because I don't know. I'm looking at that number and it's like, okay, there's the number wasn't good 2 weeks ago, and the last week's rating was whatever, but now it's like 0.26. That's kind of that does show that there is a downturn and there are people less interested. But we'll see. It's also a kind of a slow next couple of months because there's not really anything going on between
Yeah.
now and the end of January. But there's also Ring of Honor, but like that's kind of a B show.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. And Deadline and NXT, which are going head to head on the same day. I don't know head to head, but on the same day, which is
Okay.
be fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for
uh,
that.
Jericho defeated Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, and Sammy Guevara to retain the ROH World Championship in a
It was
four-way,
really good.
which I thought this was pretty good. I think that, I know Sammy has that X-Pac go away heat at the moment, but I actually think he
Yeah,
stood out really well in this match. This was probably the most kind of compelling thing they've done with him for a while. And yeah,
yeah.
I
The
thought
weird
this
thing
was a
with
solid
that,
match.
the weird thing with that is they built that up a lot during that match, and then the next couple of weeks, it's like, yeah, they didn't go anywhere with it with him, Jericho and Sammy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, sometimes to his fault that Tony Khan will do this long term storytelling.
Yeah,
Um, and the over the long kind of the duration, it's consistent, but sometimes you have those weeks in between where it's like, well, what the fuck are we doing here?
yeah.
So yeah, it's a fair point. But at least for this match, I think that this was. I will say the idea of then Claudio and Jericho again at Final Battle when everyone was thinking that it was going to be Danielson did feel like a bit of a really again, you
Yeah,
know.
I came off the match thinking like, well, who's and he also got pinned, which doesn't make any sense if that's the match for Final Battle. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, it'll be a good match, but like, I very much want to see Bryan Danielson win the title at Final Battle, and now it's not happening. It's like, okay, well, this will be good, I guess. And it'll be a good match. Jericho and Claudio, that'll be a very good match actually.
I'm sure it will
But
be.
like I was just kind of thinking like, what's a more kind of more higher profile, bigger match? And it was Danielson and Jericho. So
I feel
oh
like the issue with everything they're doing with this Jericho anti Ring of Honor run, um, is that you're doing this with the idea that all right, Jericho is going to go into final battle as the Ring of Honor World Champion, and Claudio is the all conquering Ring of Honor original. But the problem is they're doing this pay per view in Texas.
Yeah,
Like, if it was a Ring of Honor's backyard of like New
this is
York
Baltimore.
or Baltimore, yeah, or Chicago or whatever, it'd be one thing. But it's fucking Texas. It just
Yeah,
ah
they've
yeah.
done shows in Texas, but I mean, when I think Ring of Honor, I do not think of Dallas, Texas, or wherever they're
Oh
holding the
yeah,
show at.
yeah. Like I remember the Super Card of Honor from Houston, Texas, that had the Kenta Davey Richards, which was a fucking tremendous match. But
Oh yeah,
that was a long, long time ago, and those Texas matches, those cards are few and far between.
yeah,
We had Soraya making her return after a 5-year absence to defeat Dr. Britt Baker in a fairly average match at best, is the nice way I can put it. And to
yeah.
be honest, it's no more than I was really expecting.
I was expecting a little bit more from this
Really?
match. A little bit more, yeah.
Name me your top 5 Paige/Soraya matches, Brian Rose.
I don't know. I'd have to go back to NXT,
There's the
honestly.
one with Emma. That's it.
Probably. Um, I don't know. I was just thinking, like, with all the hype, and she hasn't been wrestling for 5 years, and this is her first match back, and I was kind of expecting a little bit more, and they they worked they worked hard, but just something about it. It didn't connect with the crowd. It didn't connect with me. It didn't connect with anybody really. It was just them doing some stuff, and it looked all right, and they were trading near falls, and then Soraya won. So it's not a bad match. I wouldn't say it was like a terrible match, but like I expected a little more life in this match, and nobody really showed any life here. Just kind of there.
I think the problem that Soraya has is if she is so adamant about being, saying that this is her house and she is the one
Yeah,
that's going to lead the way in this women's division, she's going to have to put on a standard of match or a quality of match that
yeah.
is way above what we got
I
here. And I don't think,
know.
like, God bless her. I'm happy that she is in a position where she can wrestle, and I'm hoping
Yeah.
that she has a
It is good that she returned on her own terms, and she can
yeah.
end if she wants to end her career here, and she can end it on her own terms.
Yeah, like
That is
everything in regards to that, I'm more than happy for her. But if
yes.
she's gonna be the thing that she wants to be, I'm sorry, but like I have to judge you on what's happening in the ring, and she's gonna have to bring up a quality that honestly I don't really think she ever did have to begin with.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of what made her stand out is that she was in a sea of talent that had a very particular look, and she stood out because she had a very different type of look.
Yeah.
And I think that that doesn't stand out as much in AEW because you look across that women's division and it's a very broad spectrum in terms of personalities and looks and all that jazz. So it's like she has to bring the wrestling game up to a level that I don't know if she ever
Wasn't
has
there for
had.
this match.
Yeah. So and it certainly wasn't here for this match. So we'll see. We'll see. Samoa Joe, surprisingly for me, defeated Wardlow and Powerhouse Hobbs
Yeah.
to win the AEW TNT Championship, making him a dual champion with the Ring of Honor Television Championship. And if you wanted to get the belt off of Wardlow, this was the way to do it. I don't know why you'd want to get the belt off of Wardlow, but here we are.
Yeah. I mean the one of the things that AEW's really dropped in the last year was Wardlow, because he was really hot going into Double or Nothing, and then he beat MGF. Then MGF came out there the next week and barely sold anything, and then ever since then it's kind of like the booking has not been there for Wardlow, whether it's just not being on TV or feuding with the lawyer. It's just what he had in the build to that match with MJF. It's not there now, and you just tell that it's not there. and now they kind of have an idea with him and Samoa Joe, and that's all right. But also, I thought, this is kind of like Will Hobbs's moment, where I thought he was going to end up winning the TNT title. I think, yeah, the TNT title. So it's kind of weird that they didn't put it on him, because he feels the hotter out of any of those three, kind of heading into that match at least. But apparently that wasn't the case, and now Joe and Wardlow are going to feud it more. I guess for the ROH title, that final battle. I don't know. Maybe TNT title. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, it's certainly not what it feels like. If you wanted to have, I just one of the things that I hate is when you have someone who's a champion and you want to get the belt off of them, but you don't want them to lose, so you
Yeah,
do it in a manner like this. And Samoa Joe is the heel, so obviously it makes sense that he wouldn't actually beat Wardlow. But it's like you don't really help anyone here. Like Wardlow still loses. He still loses the title. It just if you're gonna have him lose, just fucking have him lose. But you
yeah,
know, I digress. Um, I don't really have anything to say about this Sting, Darby Allin, Jarrett Lethal
me
thing. Like,
neither.
look, Jarrett looks good for a guy in his mid-50s. Fair play
I
to
don't need
him.
to see Jeff Jarrett every week on TV anymore.
I
He's old
like
enough to
my
be on
world
TV
as
as a
much as the
fighter.
next person, but I'm good, thanks. I was
I
sick
don't
of
need to
Jeff Jarrett
see
in
him on.
2005.
I don't need to see him on TV every week. I don't know why. I don't know why he's here. Really, I don't know why he's taking up a space like you could put somebody else in there. He's like 55. I
Yeah,
don't need to see, it's kind of a different thing with Sting, because Sting is not on TV every week, but now they seem intent on having Jarrett with Jay Lethal and that crew, and I'm not feeling it.
no, same.
No.
Something I am feeling Jamie Hayter as the AEW Women's Champion, who defeated Tony Storm in 15 very physical minutes.
Yeah, this is a very
And
good match.
Jamie Hayter now officially recognized as the actual AEW Women's Champion. And they also, Tony Khan retconned Tony Storm as interim
They need to
champion, and
get rid
now
of
her
this
reign is
interim
just
title
officially an
stuff.
actual reign. So yeah,
I'm not into the interim title stuff.
I, I,
Like
I
if somebody can't wrestle for a month, then strip them of the title. That's the New Japan thing.
yeah, I
I like
get,
the New Japan method,
I
except for
get
the Carl Anderson stuff. That's storyline, but
I get the theory behind it. I understand the idea that you can build up to, like they did with Punk and Moxley. There's a methodology and a logic to it that I get. But yes, as you say, you run into situations like this, and it's just messy. And this isn't MMA. This is pro wrestling. So
yeah.
the dynamics have to be a little bit different here. So
And
you
also,
know,
nobody knew when
yeah,
Thunder Rosa was going to be back.
exactly. Yeah.
There's no timetable. There
Um,
still isn't.
for me, I would always just say, like, if someone can't defend the title, you do a tournament. One of these days, this company will do a fucking round robin tournament and give me a North American
Yeah.
G1. One of these days, uh, but we're still waiting. But yeah, this was really good, really physical. Tony Storm, God bless her, she looks a bit busted up towards the end. But look, the crowd is behind Hater at the moment. She's kind of in this tweener role. We're still playing the very, very, very long game of her and Britt
Yeah,
Baker and whatever
that's
happens
the
there.
story. They
Yeah.
have months until full Revolution. So we're probably gonna see that story play out until Revolution. That's probably
But
the match.
the problem is, if you do Britt and Hater at Revolution, why did she lose to Soraya?
Mm,
Just
I don't
saying.
know.
Just saying.
I didn't think I know it's a return match, but when you think about the booking, it's like Britt probably did need to win that match. But you know what? There's plenty of weeks ahead where they could give Britt Baker some wins, so it's not
Well,
that bad.
my concern is that they'll go straight to Soraya and Hater at Revolution. That's
Yeah.
my running theory, which would be too soon. And like if Hater was to lose to Soraya, you know what? Just I'm getting myself annoyed even thinking about it. So I'm just going to move swiftly on. The acclaimed defeated Swerve in Our Glory. in the third match in their series, and we finally had the dissolution, the breakup of Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee when Keith Lee walked out on Strickland because he had just been a bit sick and tired of Swerve's shit at this point. And yeah,
Yeah.
the acclaimed are just, they're running free now as AEW Tag Team Champions, which I did not think was going to happen. I really thought that
Yeah.
Swerve and Our Glory would win the belts back, but no, like Tony Khan, he's going to stick by the
Going
acclaimed.
all
And
the
look,
way.
they're over,
They look
and
good.
they're selling merch. So I can
I like the
see,
act.
yeah, it's there are aspects of it where it is already being a little bit too tiresome for me. I would argue I probably would have never had Swerve and Glory lose the titles in the first place, but that's just
I
me.
think they've teased them splitting up so many times. I'm kind of like ready for them to split up. But then they did a segment on one of these shows post Full Gear where Keith Lee was like, "Well, let's talk," or something like that. I think it was Swerve that asked Keith Lee to let's talk. And now they're going to appear on Rampage on Friday. So I don't know. They're still. I thought this was like the split, and then they didn't split.
Yeah.
They'll keep
Well,
teasing it.
because the thing I was saying last month is that I was enjoying the dynamic between them where Strickland was the heel, Lee was the face. There wasn't the like will they break up, won't they break up dynamic between them. It was just one was the good guy, one was the bad guy, and they worked together as a team. And that wasn't something that you see that often. Yeah, you did admit, they had certainly had their moments where it was like, oh, are they actually going to split up? But there was a period of time where it's just like, no, just he's the good guy and he's the asshole, and that dynamic seems to be working for them. Um, but I guess we'll see what happens from there. Finally, in the main event, MJF defeated John Moxley for the AEW World Championship when William Regal turned on Moxley and gave the brass knucks to Maxwell. And yeah, Maxwell Jacob Freeman is the youngest AEW World Champion and the new AEW World Champion. What did you think of this match?
I thought it was good, not great. I'm not really sure what something was missing here. That didn't make this seem like a big time world title match. And I don't know. I mean, the right result happened. MJF should have won the title, and he did. And now he's the world champion, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. With MJF, it's kind of like sometimes he has really, really good matches, and sometimes they're just kind of. I'm not saying this is like bad or anything, but it was. It wasn't the best match on the show. Um, it was good, not great. Kind of like the last pay per view where Moxley and CM Punk had a good but not like great main event. There were other matches on this show that were much stronger and much better. This is fine. Um, but yeah, it was the right choice, and MGF should be champion for a long time until they find a babyface that will be an effective main event against him and beat him. So
Yeah,
because even this despite the promo this week, which I thought was kind of weak, MJF usually is one of the best promos in pro wrestling.
sure.
So he absolutely needs a run with the title.
Yeah, I think, like there was a 6 month, there was a year long storyline here, obviously, that
Yeah,
was Punk and MJF, and that all got blown up. And, this wasn't the match that we were meant to have. I was a bit cold on this match. They certainly did what they could to make this match as compelling as they could be. But, I think all of us knew was like this, wasn't the match that we were meant to have at Full Gear. Um, and it was decent, but I feel like some of the issues is that Moxley, and none of this is his own fault. He's been put through the ringer in terms of the booking, where he's been a bit start and stop. Where there was a period of time where he was just fucking, he was just on fire. Um, and because of the last couple of months with everything that happened with Punk, that really like stopped him in his tracks, and there was an edge that was kind of lost with him losing to Punk, only to then win the belt back a couple of weeks later when Punk was gone. So with all of that, with all of the fact that like the whole thing with MJF is that regardless of what he does, he's always going to be the bad guy. He's always going to, just
Yeah.
end up being like he is just the fucking worst. And the problem with that is we have so many instances occurring now where he will do a promo or he will say something or he's doing something in a way where he's trying to convince you that he's a good guy or that he's turned or that he's just whatever kind of
Yeah.
negative parts of his personality are not there or he's working on them.
They try to get you really to think that he might be a babyface, which is like I've watched this show for 3 years, and there's been so many times where MGF kind of goes this way, only to say "haha, fooled you."
Yeah.
And by the time you do it now, 2022, where I'm just not ever going to be sold on that, and he's out like, "Oh, haha, I fooled you." It's like, no, not really. I never really believed you're going to be a babyface, and I know plenty of people on my website have pushed the idea that he should be a babyface, and he is getting babyface reactions, but not because of what the storyline is doing. It's because they just like MJF, and they kind of really want to buy into the idea that he might turn babyface, and I think that's what they were going with here.
And I
But like I
appreciate that.
never believed one moment in the storyline though where he would actually turn and be a babyface.
No, the closest they came to that was the whole thing with the firm,
Yeah,
and
that's what
like,
they wanted to make you think. Yeah,
and that in itself was this like little kind of aspect to this storyline that really had the whole like way that he won the chip, and oh, will he cash it in, won't he? There are just so many aspects to this from the beginning of MJF's return where I didn't care about any of it. If he wanted to return, he could easily just kind of walked back into the main event picture and no one's really going to
yeah,
question it. Like, I didn't care. I'm sick of multi-man ladder matches to begin with anyway. The whole thing with the firm didn't have any legs to it,
yeah.
and the whole firm thing itself is
The
is
thing
is
with
a,
the
is a
firm just didn't
mess.
make any sense.
No.
It was the biggest, like what I mentioned earlier about thinking too much. Like if you just had MGF going out there and challenge Moxley for a match, that's fine. But the problem is that you're thinking too much about. Well, is he going to turn heel or bayface or whatever? The firm stuff that didn't make any sense, and yeah, it's just way too much thinking about how to book a pro wrestling feud.
Yeah.
Kind of saw
Now,
I saw that here. I saw that in the All Out build between CM Punk and John Moxley is starting to become kind of an issue with AEW's booking. And then it's something I've said about WWE for years too, where it's like you have this match. It's very easy to book a match. It is kind of tougher to build towards that match, but it's most of the time the simplest thing works. Like with MJF and Punk, their feud last year, a lot of that was just back and forth promo stuff, and that was simple and effective, and it made me want to see their matches. This year, there's just way too much. Well, let's get these people involved. Let's have the audience think this. Let's have CM Punk lose that, so we could build towards this big promo with him and Ace Steel, so they can sign this contract, open contract, and do a match and confirm the match like 2 days before the show airs. There's just too much cute thinking with AEW and their main event feuds, and they don't need that at all. Because WWE is guilty of the same stuff sometimes, and that leads to matches where I don't care about who wins or loses, which is not how you really should go into a pay per view thinking.
yeah. And look, we had Dynamite last night, and MJF has already turned on Regal,
Yeah,
and he couldn't have positioned himself more as the ultimate heel at this point if he tried. So one would hope that we're just okay, we're off the firing line now. MJF is the heel, and there's no more of this kind of 50-50 shades of grey bullshit. It's like, no, he is just
Yeah.
the heel now. He is the top heel in the company. He's the champ. And hopefully that, as you speak to there, kind of simplifies these dynamics in terms of having a good guy and a bad guy.
Yeah. The problem is like they never explained why Mox, why Regal turned on Mox.
No, and but the thing is, at this point, I don't think it matters because,
No, because I think Regal's out.
well, yeah, Regal's out, and also, Mox is going to jump straight into the thing with Paige, which, hey, I'm all for that because, like it freshens up the main event scene because Mox has been, the main event picture for most of the year. He can jump straight into this
That's
thing with
true.
Paige, which has like real life dynamics to that feud. All for that. So, like, yeah, maybe they probably won't explain the Regal thing, but I don't think it's
There
also
is
like
one thing I want to
essential.
bring up with that. I kind of wish that there's two problems in both of the companies. In WWE, it feels like feuds never end, and until just one day they kind of move on to something else, which I kind of don't like. But with AEW, it's like they have a set window. People are going to feud until Full Gear or All Out or whatever, and then the next show, everything is dropped and everything changes abruptly. It's kind of like there needs to kind of be a happy medium in between. Like, I kind of want to know why Regal turned on Mox. I kind of want the Miz and the creepy guy to stop feuding after 6 months. There
I
needs to be a happy medium between that.
I'm sometimes I'm happy to have questions left unanswered. Um, like if this is how Regal gets written out and we never get that answer, I
Yeah,
have
that
no issue with
I
that.
can understand that some of this segment was probably because we don't have that confirmed. By the way, I don't know what's going on really, but all the hinting seems to be that Regal's out, probably because he's probably going to go back to WWE because Triple H is in power, and if Triple H was in power last year, Regal would never have been fired in the first place.
Yep.
So he's probably going back. But yeah, I just kind of wish there's a happy medium between let's drop everything now that the pay per view is over and let's keep continuing this until we get bored of it.
Hmm.
It needs
No,
to be
yeah,
middle ground.
yeah. No, it's fair. I think I'm, again, I'm less. I have less of a problem with this here with Regal. Some of that is
Yeah,
probably circumstances being what they are. But I also feel like, whether I know the answer to that question or not, doesn't hamper my ability to, jump straight into this feud with Paige and Moxley, or
sure.
whatever happens with next with MJF. But I also, if you want kind of a bow wrapped on that storyline to understand those things, I can understand the frustration with that as well. Um, Something I want to talk to you about in terms of just a combination of both bad wrestling and bad storylines and
Oh
storytelling.
boy,
Now, I didn't watch NWA Hard Times because
nobody did.
there was, well, there is that, but there's very little that I find compelling about that product at the moment, other than just listening to the reports about the the ongoing feud between Nick Aldis and at Billy. But in
Yeah,
terms of the actual product itself, I
it's
can't
bad.
say that it was doing much for me before Hard Times, and I certainly can say that it's not doing much for me after
Oh
Hard
no.
Times. So Brian, the floor is yours.
Okay. Before I say anything, it's not like I'm objectively against the NWA because when they launched a few years ago, what I thought was very strong was that they presented themselves as kind of this like throwback company with strong promos, and maybe the in ring stuff wasn't that great, but you had very strong characters and personalities. The problem with that now in 2022 is that all those personalities are like gone. Thunder Rosa left, Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, they're all in better places now. And now you have the NWA, which with now just looks really old and dated. And they're running in crowds with like 200 people, 300 people. It looks very like a very much like a kind of nice local promotion, and this is the NWA, which still kind of has a name in 2022. It's still a name, but it's I don't know the work just the workers work hard, the guys there work hard and the women, but it's just not there. Billy Corgan books like 13 matches on this show, and none of them are good. Camille, actually, I do like Camille. Camille, I think, is a way stronger champion than Tyrus, who is the world heavyweight champion of the NWA right now. They were building and teasing this for months and months, and nobody wanted it. So sure enough, Billy Corgan booked Tyrus to win because now he can take it to Fox News and he can show it to Gutfield or whoever is the main draw over there. And
Can I ask, by the way, because
yeah,
I, not to say that you are an avid viewer of Fox News, but like, do you know
hell no, I'm not.
what he's doing on Fox News? Is he just appearing to
He's
be
there
like,
on
oh,
like
woke people, blah blah blah, or is he like
yeah,
actually doing any sort of analysis on anything?
probably I have not seen 1 second of Tyrus on Fox News. I just
Okay,
know
fair
he's
enough.
there. He's on Gutfield, which is like a entertainment show where they blast the libs or whatever.
Oh,
And
great.
then then there's the five, and I think he's on the five. It's like whatever. They talk about other stuff. Whatever the libs are doing this week. And it's like he is on there a lot and he carries his title. And a lot before the NWA title, it was like the TV title. So he was there every week for the TV title, and I guess Billy thinks the idea is, well, if people see Tyrus there on Fox News, which is a big ratings draw, they usually win the night in ratings when there isn't sports on. Um, if we get him on Fox News with the NWA title, people are going to watch. Problem is, nobody cares about the NWA in 2022. It's a promotion filled with a lot of ex WWE talent, a lot of talent that aren't going to get signed anywhere else. They work hard, but you can just tell that these are people that nobody's going to sign anytime soon. And they're just out there kind of doing stuff in front of crowds that are like, well, this is okay, I guess. The booking is atrocious. Just every single thing you can do to turn off people from watching. The main event, which was Tyrus and Matt Cardona and the champion Trevor Murdoch, that wasn't a good match at all. Just a mess. Just like Billy Corgan is not a good booker. Like he does not get what gets over in 2022 at all. And he's just booking his own stuff for like some of this throwback from the 1980s, like Mid Atlantic or whatever. And the problem is that Mid Atlantic had talent. They had like a Ric Flair. They had Dusty Rhodes. They had these great promos. They had these great matches. There's nothing here in 2022. There's nothing in this NWA. Just nothing. And it's really sad and unfortunate because there's so many people there that they've signed. It's just not there. Just this card wasn't good. The NWA anniversary shows a few months ago wasn't good. This is a very bad promotion.
Yeah,
And I after the show, I just wrote, I fully advocate them winning all the bad awards this year in the Observer Awards.
because
Just
the
not
thing is as
good.
well is it's one thing having a bad show, but having a bad show with 13 matches
Yeah,
is just like
this is
I
like a
could
3 hour show,
like the Full Gear card was 13 matches as well, but
but they had talent.
you had talent on there and you had a bunch of
Yeah,
decent matches. Not all of the matches were standout, certainly,
no.
but
Well,
like
there are some really good matches.
you did not have Death Triangle and the Elite on Hard Times, I imagine.
No, nothing close. I think the best match on the show was actually like Davey Richards and Colby Corino,
Yeah,
which was
I
like
can see
okay,
there's no reason they couldn't go out there and have a solid match. I've
yeah,
seen some of Kobe's work over the last couple of years. He had a tremendous match with his dad. I want to say about a year ago actually. They had a really
yeah.
really good
I did
match.
hear about that. Yeah,
And like Davey Richards on this return to wrestling has been anytime I've seen him, he's been really really decent. I think there's still somewhere a position for him in one of the major companies for like a 6 month run here or there. But he seems to be happy doing what he's doing. So yeah, I'm sure that was great. But
Yeah.
yeah, just the idea of Brodus Clay as NWA World Champion is enough to make
They
you
and they were
weep.
teasing that for months. Like he got a title shot at the anniversary show, and somehow they didn't put it on him for some reason. But this one, I was like, yeah, they're going to do it. I know they're going to do it because
Yeah,
I know Billy Corgan loves the idea of putting that title on Fox News every day or whenever Brodus, Tyrus, whatever shows up. It's like it's not
as
going to mean one thing, but
as uh, as
that's what he
good
wants.
as good as Billy Corgan is at playing guitar, he is bad at booking wrestling promotion.
Clearly, remember when we wanted him to take over for Dixie? There was a
Yeah,
time there where he was close to taking over TNA, and for whatever reason that didn't fizzle out
well,
or
to be
whatever.
honest, his time at Impact wasn't exactly the most fucking stellar either. So,
No, I remember that wasn't that good either.
yeah, the warning signs
They
were
had
there.
more talent here than here, which is, and I don't want to bury people, but like I'm looking at this roster and it's like it's full of people that nobody's ever going to be interested in signing. Everybody that was good there got signed, and now Billy Corgan's bringing in people from all these local areas, and they're not going to get over. Magic Jake Dumas or whatever is not going to be signed by anyone anywhere ever. I'm sorry to Jake Dumas or whatever his name is, but I'm seeing the talent here and it's just not there. It's full of ex WWE guys from 2009, ex TNA guys from 2009. Crimson, they changed Crimson's name to something that I am never going to remember, ever. I don't know. It's like he's actively booking these guys to not get over.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Really bad booker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, that's enough of NWA. I don't want to talk
Yeah,
about that anymore. I want to talk about good
me either.
wrestling.
Sure.
Did you see any of the historic crossover show?
I watched some parts of it. I remember the main event more than anything else. That was a really good match. Really, really, really good. Between Mayu Iwatani and Kyrie,
Yeah.
who is the first IWGP Women's Champion.
Yep.
She
Yep. Yep.
had a really great match with uh, Iwatani. Really solid back and forth stuff. Great near falls near the end. She went with the insane elbow. And then Tom Nakano came out and challenged for Wrestle Kingdom. So that's going to be the match for Wrestle Kingdom. And I'm looking forward to that. I don't think I've seen a lot of Tom Nakano, but
She's great.
um,
She's fucking
okay.
excellent. Love her.
All right.
Yeah, she's like this tiny little pit bull. Like she looks cute and adorable, but she's also incredibly violent in the ring. Yeah. So yeah, historic crossover. So the background, the context here. Bushi Road acquired New Japan Pro Wrestling back in 2012, and then in 2019 they announced that they'd acquired Stardom, which became the sister promotion of New Japan. And over the last couple of years, we've seen. At Wrestle Kingdom, we'd seen Stardom talent appear in the not even on like the literally on the dark show. There were matches that weren't televised. I think it was last year. Well, I think it was the first time. Maybe it was televised. I don't remember exactly.
I think
Um,
last year was the first time where I think it was televised.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe they were on the pre-show.
yeah. I think it was on the
No.
pre-show. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right there. And this is the first time where we just had a kind of a joint show between them that took place at the Ariake Arena with attendance of 7,102. And it was, it was a stacked card. You up and down. You've got fucking, the great muter is
Yeah,
on
this final
this.
match
You had Hiroshi
in New
Tanahashi
Japan.
in New Japan. Yeah, you had Hiroshi Tanahashi and Utami Hayashishita defeating Hiroki Goto and Maika. You had, Tom Lawler was on this show. God bless him. And we had the main event of Kairi and Mayu Iwatani to determine the first IWGP Women's Champion. And one of the big things that people have said about New Japan, and I think some of it is just a bit of bad faith acting, is that, oh, why don't New Japan have women's wrestling? And it's like, well, look at Japanese wrestling pretty much in its history. It's always they just
Yeah,
had men's promotions and they've had women's promotions. Um, and there have been at times in the history of Japanese wrestling where arguably the women's promotions were either hotter or more critically acclaimed. So it's not a case of you needed to put the two together. They were doing fine on their own. And,
yeah. I mean, in the '90s, All Japan Women was running like the Tokyo Dome and stuff. So it's not like women's wrestling in Japan is like non-existent. It's just
exactly.
there was a
And
huge peak in the '90s, and kind of since then, it's kind of been on the lower level. But
yeah,
with Stardom, Stardom's gained a lot of popularity in the last few years, and a lot of that's because
Stardom
of Bushiroad.
Stardom. I mean, even before like the acquisition by Bushiroad, Stardom had a few years where they were, business weren't isn't where it was now, but at least in
Yeah,
terms of the quality, because you had the likes of Kairi Hojo and you had Io Shirai. And people like Tony Storm would come in, and all of this talent that is now potted around other parts of the world. It's just a point where, kind of like with New Japan, where you just had a couple of years where just constantly having quality matches and quality talent that eventually at some point it's going to pay off, where those crowds will organically grow. And being acquired with Bushiroad does help in terms of having that muscle behind to push you that much further. And certainly having stuff like this where you've got the likes of Hiroshi Tanahashi and Hiroki Goto teaming up with your top Stardom talent as well, it can
yeah,
only help to elevate you that much more. And the fact that they put the women in the main event, when you've got the likes of fucking Kazuchika Okada and Muta and
yeah,
Tanahashi, that's a real statement to let them go
yeah. That's
last.
a real
And
stamp of approval, and they did a great job. They had a great main event.
absolutely, yeah.
They very well held their own against the men.
And I'll be curious to see like what this women's champion. Are we going to see an IWGP Women's Championship on every major New Japan show? I know that there was the talks about like, hey, they're going to take this internationally and they'll do things with it that way. But that will be the big question: is like, okay, obviously you're going to see it at Wrestle Kingdom, but do we see it at New Beginning? Do we see it at uh, Sakura Genesis or whatever the show they do, or Invasion Attack or Dominion? Like Dominion probably, yeah, but
Yeah.
those like B tier pay per views, do we see the IWGP Women's Championship show on that? That's going to be the thing that will be really curious to see. But yeah, like you,
Mhm.
I thought it was a tremendous match, and I will say, like every month we talk about him, but Will Ospreay, I thought he had by far the best match that I've seen Shota Umino have. Like,
Ooh.
you look at Umino and you immediately think, all right, well, this is a guy that clearly is doing like a Tanahashi tribute in terms of his look. But I think that
Yeah.
tonight
That's
he got the work down, that kind of like fiery baby face, like kind of ace of the company sort of vibe I got from Umino for the first time tonight. And I thought these two had just a fucking tremendous match.
I always wondered, he was really good as a young lion, and then he went out and went to the UK for a few years, and everything I heard about Umino is kind of like he's kind of there. He's a guy. So I was wondering, like, if he's going to show something. And I think he finally showed something at Forbidden Door earlier this year in that match he had. And then he just kind of disappeared for a while again, and now he's starting to appear on Strong, and now he's starting to appear here and in Japan. And I haven't seen the match. I didn't see all of the matches. I think I saw the ending, but maybe this is the time he finally shows something, which it kind of reminds me of Okada because Okada went to America. And as we all know, as we all remember, he went to America and he had a disastrous run in TNA because I think Vince Russo was still booking, and he was just Okado. And then he came back and he became one of the best wrestlers in the world. And I'm not going to say that Shota Umino is going to be like one of the best wrestlers in the world, but this is a very good opportunity for him to show something.
Yeah. Yeah. And
We'll
the
see.
key thing is, as you say there, it's like there's just whatever potential that was there before, like this is now where we're really finally seeing it. And the six man at Forbidden Door, he had all the opportunities there to present himself to the world, and I think he did exceptional in that match. And yeah, I just Osprey, like he is someone who's just not afraid to let someone put a beating on him, and you can tell he just anytime he's in a task to try and get someone else over, he goes above and beyond. And yeah, just a
Yeah,
fucking excellent match. But yeah, that was historic crossover, really worth checking out, and I'm excited to see just how far this relationship between Stardom and New Japan goes.
yeah. And I think it should be like a yearly thing.
Oh,
I'm thinking
absolutely,
like that
yeah, absolutely,
because
definitely.
with Stardom, it's like I always hear good stuff about Stardom, but there's so much other wrestling and there's so much free time I have in the world. I kind of don't have time to watch Stardom,
Well,
but I
also
hear there's a bunch of great talent.
Stardom put on a lot of events. Like they are like the
Yeah, they run
GCW
a
of
lot.
of
They run a
Japan.
lot of events. They had a bunch of tournaments this year.
Their
Last
five
tournament they
star
had
Grand
was
Prix goes on for like
that
four
lasted like
months.
yeah, that lasted for like months.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I don't have time to watch all that.
even I, as someone
But
who watches Stardom regularly, I don't have time for that. So I get it.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it's like I am sure there's a lot of great wrestlers in Stardom, and I always hear great things. But I don't have time. And so
I
I did. They did have a big profile pay per view that I watched, and a lot of the women on that show were great.
yeah, I think the big thing that Stardom needs to do next, and I'm sure Bushiroad are conscious of this, is like English commentary. If they really want to kind of break into the
Yeah,
Western market, Stardom have been really good over the years of having English subtitles over promos. They've always been good for that. But commentary has always either been there's no commentary or it's Japanese commentary. And like if they want to get to that next level in terms of Western exposure, whatnot, whether it's Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly or it's someone else, that's the next thing that they have to do is get that down. So yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, we'll end this show by, as always, starting Brian Rose. Who's your wrestler of the month for November 2022?
Uh, these are always hard to pick. I went ahead and went with Chris Jericho because I think he's had a hell of a year, and he had a great match at Full Gear with that 4-way for the ROH title. The ROH title run is very great. One of the best things that in the Ring of Honor era under Tony Khan. That's my dog. Um,
That's okay. I'm guessing your dog that disagrees with you.
no, the mailman just came in and dropped off something. Maybe he doesn't like Chris Jericho. I don't know. But yeah, I am choosing Chris Jericho. He's just had a hell of a run with this ROH World Title run, and he had a great match at Full Gear, and I'm sure the match at Final Battle will be very good. And we'll see what happens with Chris Jericho. I think he's proving to be very important to AEW going forward.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. On top of all that as well, he had that title defense against Ishii on the 23rd, which was, very much an Ishii match. They went out
Oh
there, they
yeah, yeah,
chopped each
that
other,
too.
they hit each other hard, and like
Excellent match.
Jericho does obviously lean more into the sports entertainment side of his character because that's his fucking
Yeah,
gimmick. But Ishii was here just to chop the hell out of him, and Jericho's chest was bleeding within minutes, and just yeah, you got a little bit of a different side of him, and yeah, just a fucking tremendous match, and yeah, I'm with you in agreement. Jericho continues to be a very vital part of this company in a way that you would have thought that possibly at this point he may have started to be on the kind of downswing of his career. He's like 52 now, but still
yeah.
fucking going strong. So fair play to him.
He's so good at 52.
Yeah.
There's not a
It's
lot of 52-year-olds that can be at the level that Chris Jericho is,
yeah,
and
it's crazy.
he's very good. He's very smart too. He's very smart at what he needs to do to get
Yeah.
over, and very good, very good.
Your match of the month.
Oh. put down? I already forgot. Oh, the trios title match at Full Gear. Yeah, now that you mentioned Ishii and Jericho, I'm kind of like, do I want to go with that or do I want to go with the trios match? Maybe I'll just do like a tie because I really like that match with him and Ishii. I thought that was like a very strong back and forth, great main event level kind of match that I hadn't seen on Dynamite in a while. Even though the Young Bucks have had great matches every week since their return, but I will go with those two because the match of Full Gear was also just awesome. Just a great reminder of what the Elite can do and uh, what that triangle can do together. Just a great back and forth, super cool stuff. Just the Elite are the Elite, and they proved that in that match. And now we're going to see more matches in it. My voice is leaving me, but my voice is just gone. But
So I've blown you up, brother. I'm sorry.
yeah. But this is the both matches I'll go with for match of the month. Just great matches in different ways.
Yeah, no, I'm totally in agreement as well. Just an incredible six man. Like, just there's a quality and a level of work that these two teams are capable of, and I'm sure there'll be the people out there bitching that they'd rather have had Punk back than the Elite. But while certainly there is the character dynamics to Punk that will be missed. Look, I'm more than happy to keep Omega and the Bucks around if they're going to deliver this quality of work. So, yep, I'm in agreement with you. This of the two, this and the Osprey and Shota match was also tremendous,
Oh
but
yeah.
I'll go with the six man. And all right, we'll round off with your favorite promotion of November.
I would have to go with I don't know. There's nobody that really that's strong that's standing out. I just went with AEW by default because most weeks I still like Dynamite, even though I've seen better days with that show. But I would, yeah, AEW. I mean, I don't know by default because WWE is fine but hardly remarkable. New Japan, I've seen most of the big shows, but like I saw Autumn Battle Autumn. I saw that. I don't know if that was November. Yeah, November 5th. Yeah, Battle Autumn. Yeah, I saw that. That was a good show. I saw the Stardom crossover show. I saw parts of it at least. I saw the main event, and that was good. If I had watched more of New Japan, I probably would have gone with New Japan, but I just didn't have time. Uh, so I mean, I guess AEW by default. I don't know. I'm not good with promotion of the month every month. It's really a struggle.
No, I get it. I get it. I mean, I definitely went with New Japan. I saw the opening night of the tag league tournaments, and that had Leo Rush and Yo defeating Francesco Akira and TJP, and they had a hell of a match. So that was a really strong start to that. There was obviously the historic crossover was tremendous, and yeah, Battle Autumn had Naito and Will Ospreay, which was not a 5-star match. Sorry, Meltzer, no idea what you're smoking on that one, but it was a good
Wait,
match
what did
nonetheless.
you give 5 stars?
Ospreay and Naito.
Yeah, he was putting over that match hard.
It was good, but yeah, not 5 stars. But yeah, I'm gonna go with New Japan. They had they had a fairly consistent November, and it was really nice actually with the tag league because we had crowd participation back, and just being able to hear crowd
Yeah.
screaming was a good time. So that was good. But yeah,
I'm
that
hoping they have
is
that for the
that.
Tokyo Dome.
I don't think so. Well, they're in.
Really?
Well, there's Tokyo Dome, and then there's also there's the Yokohama Arena. Is it two shows they're doing again? I don't even know
Yeah.
where we are at this point. Yeah.
January
So
4th, but
and
there's no
then
January 5th card. Or
no,
maybe
it's like
they do for New Year's Dash. I forget if they have New Year's Dash this year for
yeah, the
2023.
Yokohama Arena is like 2 weeks later or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like on the
Yeah,
21st or something. It's much later than January 4th.
because that's the Muta show, right?
I don't know. I don't
I
know
think
what
so.
they're gonna do for that show.
Well, I feel like that's probably where
The,
Keiji Muto will
the
retire.
speculation is that it could be like an AEW show, like they do a joint
Mm,
show with AEW and New Japan. But last year because they did something similar with Pro Wrestling Noah.
yeah, yeah, which
So
definitely
kind of
ain't
like, are
happening
they?
this year.
No, no. I think it is like the same day though as the Great Muda final show,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Bye Bye
Well,
show.
we'll see. We'll see. But until then, thank you very much for listening. This has been the Grap Up, episode 25. As always, you can find us on the Link to the Cast network. We will be back later this month, hopefully with a Christmas special to be determined in terms of the format of that. And hopefully, we'll have some special guests as well. So keep an eye and an ear out for that one. But until then, have a very good December, have a very good Christmas and New Year's. And yeah, we'll see you again next time for the Grap Up.